Hi everyone, today we're looking at how we can create a Streamlit chatbot using just OpenAI and Streamlit. It's very simple, it's a very basic chatbot, but it will allow you to start this template and then work on top of it to adapt it to your own use cases. We'll do it from start to end, so that means we are deploying it to a Streamlit community cloud, so that anyone in the world can access your own chatbot. Let's get started. First thing you need is obviously to have Python installed in your computer. You need to have an IDE to start coding. You'll need an OpenAI API key, which we'll create together in a second. And if you want to deploy it and have it accessible by anyone, you need to have a GitHub account if you don't. All right. So we are going to use Poetry to manage our packages. Now, because Poetry works to create packages and things like that, it will ask us a few things about like package name and version. We do not have to worry about that because it's just a tutorial. We can just take default values for everything. And once you just press enter up to the end, Poetry has created this PyProject.toml here. Now, one thing that we need to add, because it is not a package, it is just an app, we can include here a package mode equals to false. So that way we're telling Poetry it does not have to run on package mode. Now, the second thing we have to do once we did our Poetry init is Poetry shell. This will create and activate a virtual environment. That's all for Poetry. Now we can use it to add packages. Now we only need two packages. We only need Streamlit and OpenAI. Streamlit will be our user interface for the chatbot, and OpenAI will be the API we'll be calling to get the chatbot to answer. Now, for that, we will need an OpenAI API key. And for that, we can come here on platform.openai.com on API keys, and then we can create a new secret key. Let's call it Streamlit chatbot. And once we create it, now keep in mind this key should be secret, so you should not share it with anyone. The reason I'm comfortable sharing it here is because I'm going to delete it in a few minutes. But if anyone has access to your OpenAI API key, they can start using GPT, and you will be paying for that. Now, in order for Streamlit to be able to access that, we have to create a folder called .streamlit, and then in this folder we can add a file called secrets.toml, and here in this file we can create a variable called OpenAI API key, and that will be equal to the key we have just pasted from the OpenAI website, and that should be it. Now let's create our main file. Our main file can live in a folder called Streamlit Chatbot, because that's the name of our app, and then we move it outside, and then in this folder we can call our file app.py. Now this is the main file of our application. This is where everything happens. Obviously we start by importing the two libraries we need, so Streamlit and OpenAI. Once we've imported Streamlit, we can then from OpenAI import OpenAI, written like that. That will allow us to access the OpenAI chat. First, we need to get the key, and we can call it API key, and then it's gonna come from Streamlit secrets. Now, Streamlit secrets will give you everything that is in the secrets file by its name. So all you gotta do is access OpenAI API key from here, and there you go. And then to start our OpenAI client, all we gotta do is to OpenAI, and then you start it by giving the API key, and that's it. Now we need to start our chat interface. Now our chat interface, it can start with a simple title. So we can use a Streamlit title. And let's call it just Chatbot for now. And then we need access to chat history. Now the way Streamlit works is that every time it runs, it kind of forgets all the variables you've set before. So that means, for example, keeping track of a chat history becomes very hard if you're just using standard Python variables. That's why you need something called Streamlit session state. And session state is what allows you to make things last over your Streamlit session. Now, what we want to do is add something to the session state called messages, which will be an empty list for now. And obviously, we only want to do this particular step if there are no messages yet in session state. So we say if message is not in st session state, then create it, as simple as that. Now, next thing we want to do is to display our chat messages. So the way we want to do it is, because chat messages are a list, you can just say for message in session state dot messages. You want to do something that something is displaying a markdown with a message content. But first you need to define a role for that. So there's two roles in the chat, is the assistant and the user. Now the way we we display a message from the assistant or for the user is by defining the role. So you can say something like Streamlit chat message, and then you get the message role, and we'll be giving roles in a second. With chat message as a given role, use markdown to display the message content. And that should be it. Next, we display the chat messages. Now we want to take some user input. Now the way we can do that is by checking, let's call it prompt. So let's say if the user prompts something, and then use this operator to get a chat input. And then you can add a placeholder in chat input. So let's say what's up. And if the user adds some input, then we'll append it. So session state will append it to the message history. So messages.append. And the way we can do that is by giving a role. And because this is the user input, the role will always be user, of course. And then the content will be the user prompt. And that should be it for appending the message. Now the next thing we need is to display its message. We've appended it to the session history. Now we can say with Streamlit chat message, and then you specify that it's a message from the user. Use markdown to display their prompt. So if we decide to organize this a little bit, we've got our chat history, and then user input. And then, of course, once the user adds some input, next thing we want is this input to be sent to OpenAI. So the way we do that is by also using with, but this time the chat message. So chat message will not be from the user. It will be, of course, from the assistant. That's a new role. And then we need a response first from OpenAI. So our response is going to come from client. And client is this object we created here from OpenAI. Then we use the chat method, and then completions, and then create. Now this is what allows us to create a chat completion, and we need to specify a model. So let's say it's, we have some options here. Let's say it's GPT 3.5 Turbo. And then we also want to add some history to this chat. So last thing we can do is add some messages here. And the messages will be, we can say, we can specify a format. So we can say it's a role, and then we get a role from the message. And then you need some content. So the content will be the message content. And that should be for a, let's say, for M in ST session state messages. State messages. I'm missing these here, and also these, I think. There's still something missing. Yep. All right. So our messages are basically a list containing a dictionary where we say the role and the content for each message in messages. And that should be it. Now, once we got our response, next step is to get, so we got our response, so we need to define assistant response as, because this response will be the response from the API call, but it doesn't mean it's just the message content. There's a lot of stuff that comes with it. So we take this response, we take something called choices, because sometimes GPT sends us multiple choices for each answer, and then we'll just take the first, and then we'll take the message, and then the content. And that should be it. And now we can use Markdown to display this assistant response. And finally, we've gotten an answer, we've displayed it. Now we want to add it to the chat history. So we can say session state dot messages dot append, and we want to append, and then the role, of course, will be the assistant, and the content should be the assistant response. And that should be enough for our chatbot to respond. Before we run it, let's just ask Cursor to create a README file for us. Let's see if he can do that. Yeah, so Cursor created it for us. We can just add a README file here, add Cursor suggestions, and it should be okay. All right, let's see if this works first. So in order to use it, we can call Poetry first, Poetry run, and then Streamlit run. And finally, Streamlit chatbot /app. Let's see if this works. All right, so session state has no attribute messages. Yeah, I forgot an S here. So if we refresh this, yeah, we're good to go. Now let's try, let's see if OpenAI responds. If we say hi, again, another S I forgot. I'm forgetting my S's. No pun intended. And there we go. Let's see now. If I say hi, I get hi back. Great. Now, we want to be able to deploy this. The way we can do that is by deploying it by sending it to GitHub, and then telling Streamlit Community Cloud to look into our GitHub repository. So first thing we're gonna need is a .git ignore file, and in here we want our secret stuff. So Streamlit And then it's called secrets.toml. All right. Now, next thing we want is to actually git init. So we are telling Git to keep track of the changes we make here. I think I also want to add ZSH history here because I don't need to keep track of that for my project. And yeah, that should be it. Now let's go to GitHub and create a repository. So if I come here, I can just create a new repository. Let's call it Streamlit Chatbot. It's going to be public, no README file, no git ignore because I already have those. And now I've created these. Now I can copy these SSH from GitHub directly, and then I can do git add to send all those files to the staging area. Then I can use git commit to make my first commit. And now I want to add a remote origin, and then I paste that SSH URL. So I'm telling it, hey, the origin, remote origin is this URL. Once I do that, I can then push it, push origin master. I can then push it to the origin, and now all of these changes have been sent to GitHub. If I refresh this page, I can see all of my files. That's great. Now let's redeploy our app. Running it with Poetry, I can see it here. Now you'll see there is a deploy button here. And then once we click here, we can choose Streamlit Community Cloud. It's free. Deploy now. I'm gonna say, hey, it's on this repo, on this branch, on this file. Advanced settings. It's very important that I put my secret here because so far I haven't added it to my GitHub. And then by using secrets, we know that it's gonna be safe. And then I click on deploy, and then I just wait for a few minutes maybe, and we should be good to go. All right, so now we have our chatbot. This URL is public. Let's try it out. Yeah, it works. That's it, guys. That's how you create your own chatbot using Streamlit and OpenAI. Yeah, obviously, it's very basic, but you can adapt it and tweak it for your own use cases. But at least now you know how to build it and make it accessible easily for other people. Hope you liked it.